I'm Dan Schofield. I'm responsible for venue operations at Manchester United Football Club. So when we were looking or requested that we change the kick-off time, our first port of call was to speak to Michael, just check that he'd be amenable to it, and of course he said, yeah, absolutely, we'll do whatever we can. We needed to get the broadcast slot with ITV changed, so we were ITV1 broadcast 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon for the foundation, and for what we wanted to achieve with the testimonial, it was the best platform we could have hoped for. So moving that to earlier in the day meant that viewing figures would have been affected, and rearranging national scheduled slots is not the easiest of things. ITV, fantastic, very amenable as well. I think they understood the wider context of what was happening. We then had the logistics of getting all the players up. A lot of the lads who were participating in the game were also working in Cardiff on the Champions League final the night before. We'd got a charter booked for them, and they were all due to depart Cardiff just after 12 o'clock. Get to Manchester, nice leisurely warm up and a run around in the sun. I didn't realise at the time when we sorted the charter that the departure slots out at Cardiff Airport were controlled by UEFA over those days for all private departures. So getting an earlier slot wasn't as simple as just arranging with the charter company and the airport. It was a full UEFA process and just trying to find out who is actually making this decision. All these conversations are going on whilst we're getting pressure from the promoters and from the police to say we need this decision before we can confirm that the concert will take place. When all that was done, dusted and agreed, we then had the challenge of, well, how do we make it work to get 120,000 people in and out of the same area on two venues and two very different demographic of crowd. I think the first thing which we focused on was getting the right people around the table, and it was very evident very clearly that we needed a holistic approach to this. We needed to be working together and complementing each other's plans whilst not affecting our business as usual as much as we could. So Emirates, Old Trafford and Old Trafford both have very unique traffic management plans which focus on getting people in and getting people out as quickly and safely as we can. The two are very contradictory to each other if you treat them in isolation. So we'd be sending people directly past their front door and vice versa as we're coming in. So we engaged a company called SEP, who are a fantastic event, car parking and traffic management company who I've worked with over numerous years. Alex Brunel, who he pretty much runs the show for the main stadiums for SEP, came up the next morning, and he came up with plans which, having discussed them in concept form, he was able to then visualise them, bring them forward and refine them to a point where when we went back to the police gold, pretty much 12 hours after we'd been set the I expect a resilient plan challenge, we were able to come back with something which on paper would work, and with the expert advice of the people that we sought, they all bought into the idea of doing it. The key decision which we took, and it was very much a eureka moment, was if we take control of the junction, which is pretty much halfway between the venues, and we reduce the impact of clashes. So not a clash in what you might come across in the football world with home and away fans clashing, more just the conflict of concert incomers and football egresses. So we took control of that junction, we took control of the Metrolink services to either side of it, and we changed the flows to them. So we closed egress from the Old Trafford Metrolink stop, which meant that the only people coming through that stop were people coming into the concert, and we closed Talbot Road, which enabled us to have a plaza space for egressing football fans to queue before they got on with Metrolink at Trafford Bar. One of the things that Anthony Mundy from Langs Cricket and myself discussed in depth was that we don't want to set precedents with this, and we were conscious that this plan on paper is probably the easiest plan that we could put in place for either of our operations, but it would mean extensive road closures and just complete change to the operating norm. So we were a bit cautious that this was going to work too well and not be something which we could sustain for our ongoing operations. when we actually came to the day, it couldn't have worked better. The park and ride, which TFGM, so Transport for Greater Manchester, put in place, meant that we weren't leveraging additional vehicle use into the local network. We were displacing that to park and rides in the city centre and at the Trafford Centre. That worked particularly well. The shuttles to take people back utilised the Talbot Road, which was closed for the queuing crowds for the football. So there was a combination of contributory pieces which came together, and it worked. We got everyone in and we got everyone out safely. But after the Bournemouth evacuation at the end of the 2015-16 season, a lot of our operating procedures we scrutinised and we looked and we put in place. And as we move forward with reviewing the venue and reviewing the stadium and how we may look in 5 years, 10 years time, we're making sure that we are not manipulating is probably not the right word, but we're making sure that we're flowing the crowds in the most efficient way for them. So it emphasises their match day experience and it gives us the upper hand on the safety side of it. I think what's really refreshing coming in at Manchester United is that the fan experience is escalated to the top of priorities. So as with any club, security will always be the number one, but with fan experience now taking a much more high profile view on the agenda, we are going to be implementing various things to enhance that for the supporters. Well, we've had probably a best case example of the day after the atrocity of the arena. We had a critical escalation plan in place, so that if the national threat level or even the localised threat level escalated from severe to critical, we had an off-the-shelf plan which we'd already written so we could implement that. So overnight after the attacks and we became aware of it, we had guys in our control room dealing and implementing our response levels, knowing that the call was likely to come that we were raising to critical. So we locked down the venue, we closed down the museum, we closed down the megastore, we stopped the tours, we cancelled some of the conference and event business which we had in that week, and it was all a pre-agreed plan with pre-agreed communication messages. So we were able to go out to people and minimise the disruption and the impact as best we could. We also had the Europa final on the Wednesday night, so 2 nights later. As soon as we knew the game was proceeding, the team travelled, they went out there, but historically United fans will all congregate on our East forecourt after they've won a major trophy, and that was something which we were acutely aware of and we needed to put a plan in place. So without preempting the result, we knew that if it was looking like we were going to win, that we'd deploy resources to close down the forecourt, and we'd explain to people who were coming that because of the situation, because of the circumstance, they wouldn't be able to come onto the premise and onto the property to celebrate, but we'd encourage them all to go into the city centre and join like-minded fans in the bars and in the city centre itself. So we wanted to put as resilient a plan in place as we could, and there was 2 focuses. So there was the information around those attending, but then also the communication that the kick-off time has changed and what disruption that might bring to travel and to people's plans for the day. We emailed out to all ticket purchasers, we texted all ticket purchasers. Michael, through his social networks, put a statement out and put messaging out to both declare the support for the One Love concert, but also to advise that the kick-off time has changed. And then we just kept up with that. So we worked with Lancs, with the police, with the local authority to ensure that all of our messaging was included within the holistic messaging. And it just emphasised the fact that we were changing kick-off time. The other big change which we implemented, which is not related to the One Love gig, was that it was the first game we went to a no bag policy in the stadium. So we had that operation and that communicating out to supporters not to bring bags on the day because of the elevated threat risk. We're assessing it. It's something which, in an ideal world, we'd probably go to the NFL way of operating, but acknowledging that they are two very different sports and two very different time frames. It is one which we are assessing, and I think if we were to do it, communication is going to be the critical part of that, and not just being a straight no, you can't bring a bag in. It would be having bag drop cabins, it would be having clear plastic bags so we could decant and looking at various different things like that. We'd actually preempted that and started to put the plans in place. So Anthony and I, we presented yesterday, had only met 4 weeks before the show, and we'd done so on the basis that the synergies. Why aren't we working together? We host a lot of our matchday hospitality at Emirates Old Trafford, so the arrangements tended to be of a business nature that we'd take hospitality space off them. Anthony and I have had a couple of chats since just to look at the different ways that we can work together, and it could be through anything from food purchasing. With olive oil, so if they're buying 4,000 litres and we're buying 10,000 litres, collectively there'll be an economy of scale if we were to do that together as a holistic operation. Obviously different ownerships, different groups and different contractors, but I think the spirit of collaboration's there, and it's now an open opportunity for us to be able to do that. And I'm a firm believer in that you take as much out of any situation, whether it's good or bad, and if a positive for us coming out of this is that we do have better working relationships on the road, then fantastic.